Hello and welcome back. Let's learn about the fundamentals of database design. Important database terms to know. Access organizes information into tables. Each row is called a record. A record contains unique information. Each column is called a field. A field is a single item of information. This is a contacts table image which shows you the data in the datasheet view, and you have the different items here, and here you have the rows, and you can see that each row is unique because it has a unique ID. This is the contacts table in design view where you can see each of the items and their corresponding data type. So the data types are already assigned during the table design so that data entry is validated. What is a good database design? A good database design divides information into subject-based tables to reduce duplication. It ensures correctness and completeness of information, accommodates data processing and reporting needs, provides access with information it requires to join the information in the tables together as needed. What does this mean? For example, if you have a computer training institute, it will have subject-based tables like students tables, employees tables, courses tables, etc. The information that we input into the tables must be correct and complete. No database can give you a good report if the data is incorrect and incomplete. Also, a good database should accommodate data processing and reporting needs. What does this mean? It means that the data that you enter must be proper and the output that you get must be useful. For example, I input the students data in students table, the courses data in courses tables, and if I wish to know what course the student has taken, I should be able to connect these two tables to create a report and also join these two tables to get more information. What is the design process? First, we determine the purpose of our database. Next, we collect the information required, we organize the information, we divide the information into tables, and then we convert information items into columns. We then specify primary keys to uniquely identify each row as you saw in the contacts table. So, what is the purpose of my table? This is the first thing we need to do. It should keep a record of all students. It should tell us about the performance of students. It should keep a record of all faculty and report their performance. Which course was taken most, earnings by course, total earnings, locality of maximum students, effectiveness of advertising. These are the questions that the database of, for example, a computer institute would be asked. How do we collect the information? We can gather all information to record in the database such as student first name, last name, address, email, mobile number, etc. How do we get this information? We can start with existing information. Let us say an institute that has just started takes its data from a form. That means whenever the students come, it gives them a paper form which they fill up, and the institute keeps this form in a file. But they might also have the data in index cards or in an Excel worksheet or a Word document. We can optimize this later once we have collected the data. For example, a sample database, students database would have the following sample data items: first name, last name, address of student, courses that he opts for, MS Access, web designing, MS Excel, start date of the course, date of completion, the course fees, payment made by cash, check, credit card, then if he makes a payment by check, name of bank, bank branch, check number, date, how did you get to know about us? The institute might ask. So by reference, that is word of mouth, flyers, ad in local magazine, website. Once the data is collected, we need to organize the data. We break each piece of information into its smallest useful parts. For example, break the name into two parts, first name and last name. Think about the questions you might want the database to answer. For instance, which was the most sought after course last month? Then we divide the data into tables. A table has rows and columns, as you know. So we divide our data into major subjects like student details, course details, employee details, payment details, bank details for a database of a computer learning institute. Now we turn the data items into columns. So here you have the first column, first name, last name, address, city, and so on. For the courses table, we have WordPress, Excel, VB, and so on. Questionnaire table, we have website, ad in newspaper, flyer, and word of mouth. What are the do's and don'ts? Do not store the result of calculations in tables. Access can perform the calculations when you need it. For example, we may wish to calculate the payment due from a student. Store information in its smallest logical parts. For example, create separate fields for locality, city, and PIN code. Why do we need to do that? Because let us say at the end of the month we wish to know how many people from a certain locality joined our course. So if we have the address in one line, then we may not be able to extract that data. Next, we specify the primary key. The primary key is a column that uniquely identifies each row, as you saw in the contacts table. Always choose a primary key whose value will not change. Therefore, we cannot take the telephone number as the primary key. If we cannot use a column or set of columns as primary key, we can use the auto number data type. Factless identifiers like auto number are ideal for use as a primary key because they do not change. That's what we saw in the contacts table. We had 1, 2, 3, and so on. For the students database, we can use an auto number column as primary key. Student ID for the students table, course ID for the courses table, employee ID for the employees table. So let's look at the design process. We have set up the table. Now we need to set up table relationships to bring the information together in meaningful manner. We can then refine the design later on. We also need to apply normalization rules to check if tables are structured correctly, because tables form the heart of the database. So creating table relationships. Access, as you know, is a relational database management system. In a relational database, we divide our information into separate subject-based tables. We then create relationships to bring the information together as needed using the primary key. For example, we wish to know what course the student took and what was the fees. What do? We connect the students table with the courses table using the primary key of each of the tables, as you will see soon. Creating a one-to-many relationship. So here is a table of a customer, and you can see it has an ID, an auto number, then it has the company name, first name, last name, and so on, and you can see that this ID number makes each record unique. Let's go to the next slide, and here you can see we have an order list. So a customer can place many orders, and you can see here that in the orders list the customer is also mentioned. How did the order list get the customer name, for example, or the company name, for example? It got it through a connection by building a relationship, as you will see. So here we have the customers table with the items and the orders table, and you can see this is how the relationship is set in a one-to-many relationship. So here we have the one side, which is the customer. So one customer can place many orders. So this is the many side. What do? We create a line like this which indicates that one customer can place many orders, and you can see that the customer ID has been placed inside this table. So this is the primary key of the customer table, but in the orders table it becomes the foreign key. To represent a one-to-many relationship in our database design, we take the primary key on the one side of the relationship, as I showed you, and add it as an additional column to the table on the many side of the relationship. For example, we added the customer ID column from the customers table to the orders table. Access uses the customer ID number in the customers table to locate the correct customer for each order in the orders table. The customer ID column in the orders table is called a foreign key. A foreign key is another table's primary key. The customer ID column in the orders table is a foreign key because it is also the primary key in the customers table. How to create a many-to-many relationship? As you can see here, we have an orders table with its items, the products table, and in between we have what is known as a order details table. Now why do we do that? You see, an order can have many products and one product can be in many orders. So this is also called a many-to-many relationship, and we cannot relate these two tables directly. What we do is we create a junction table, and this junction is called orders details. And what does it do? It creates two one-to-many relationship so that we can work with our tables to create meaningful information. Consider the relationship between the products table and the orders table. A single order can include more than one product. A single product can appear on many orders. Therefore, for each record in the orders table, there can be many records in the products table. And for each record in the products table, there can be many records in the orders table. This type of relationship is called a many-to-many relationship. To detect many-to-many relationships between our tables, it is important that we consider both sides of the relationship. So, how do we solve the problem of the many-to-many relationship? Because many-to-many relationship tables, if connected directly, will produce duplicate results. We solve this problem by creating the junction table. We create a third table called a junction table. It breaks down the many-to-many relationship into two one-to-many relationships. We insert the primary key from each of the two tables into the third table. The third table records each occurrence of the relationship. What does the junction table achieve? The order details table's primary key consists of two fields, as you saw, the foreign keys from the orders and the products tables. Together, the two fields always produce a unique value for each record. Together, the two fields always produce a unique value for each record. The orders and the product tables are not related to each other directly. They are related indirectly through the order details table. The orders table and the order details table have a one-to-many relationship. The products table and the order details table have a one-to-many relationship. From the order details table, you can determine all the products on an order. We can also determine all the orders for a product. So therefore, there is no duplication of data. How to create a one-to-one relationship? That's pretty easy. Here is an employees table with its fields, and here is the departments table with its fields. So one employee can be only in one department. So we add the department ID as a foreign key to the employees table here as department ID, and this creates a one-to-one relationship. So next time we wish to know which employees in which department, we can relate both these tables and extract the data. Summarizing table relationships. Determining the relationships between tables helps ensure that we have the right tables and columns. When a one-to-one or one-to-many relationship exists, the tables need to share a common column or columns, as you saw. When a many-to-many relationship exists, a third junction table is created to represent the relationship, because this third junction table converts the many-to-many relationship into two one-to-many relationships. Once our data tables have been created, we need to check if those tables are structured correctly. The normalization rules help us to do this. So there are three important normalization rules. The first rule states that at every row and column intersection in the table, there exists a single value and never a list of values. For example, you cannot have a field named email in which you place more than one address. Think of each intersection of rows and columns as a cell. Each cell can hold only one value. The second normalization rule requires that each non-key column be fully dependent on the entire primary key, not on just part of the key. This rule applies when you have a primary key that consists of more than one column, as you saw in the orders details table. But let's take another example. For example, suppose you have a table containing the following columns where student ID and course ID form the primary key. This is also known as a composite key. When two columns form a primary key, we call it a composite key. So student ID primary key, course ID primary key, both of them form a composite key, and they have in this table something called course name. This design violates second rule because course name is dependent on course ID but not on student ID. It is not dependent on the entire primary key. Therefore, we must remove course name from the table. It belongs to a different table. For example, courses. The third normalization rule states that each non-key column must be dependent on the primary key and nothing but the primary key. For example, suppose you have a table containing the following columns: course ID, which is the primary key, course name, fees, discount. Assume that discount depends on the fees. This table violates third normal form because a non-key column, discount, depends on another non-key column, fees. Column independence means that you should be able to change any non-key column without affecting any other column. If you change a value in the fees field, the discount will change accordingly, thus violating this rule. In this case, discount should be moved to another table. In the next video, we will create a complete database from scratch, collect the information, create the tables, create the items, create the relationship, and see how all this that we have learned in the database design helps us to make a good database. Thanks for watching.